Okay, so right now I'm at the Prince George Rod and Gun Club, the Blackwater range, and I've taken a an SKS rifle that I recently purchased from Marstar. It's a company here in Canada that sells surplus rifles and all kinds of goodies. And this is a Chinese SKS. Now, this particular SKS, I think it was probably built in the early 70s, maybe late 60s. And it's pretty standard, or pretty much representative of the type of rifles that are coming into the country right now. And this is what you can expect to find when you buy one of these. One of the ones that have come in recently. Now, this is the military model. I believe this was built specifically for the Chinese military. And because of that, it has a few design features that are interesting. It's pretty much an exact copy of the Russian SKS, meaning that all the parts are milled. There may be some weird differences like the gas tube. This piece here might be a little bit different on a Russian SKS. Little bits and pieces here and there that are slightly different, but for the most part, it is pretty much the same. It's all milled parts. This trigger housing here, I don't know if you could tell, but it is not a pressed steel unit. A lot of the civilian ones, or the later market SKSs, are actually they went through a building efficiency program where they did things like they replaced this with a stamped steel unit, and the barrel is actually pressed in and pinned into the receiver. But this particular model, it isn't. This is a threaded unit. So in all intents and purposes, it's almost exactly the same as a Russian SKS. This one has been, pinned to 5 rounds as per Canadian law. Okay, so yeah, I mean, overall, these rifles, I think they're brand new. They've never really been used. I couldn't see any evidence of it being used before. I think it was pretty much built and then thrown into a box and then put away for storage, and then never saw the light of day again until Marstar got their hands on them. It's got the spike type bayonet, which is a little different from the Russians in that they use a bladed bayonet and it's a little shorter. This one is longer. It's kind of neat because the spike bayonet is long enough where you can actually use it as a monopod. That's kind of neat. When you're in the prone position, you can actually use it as a monopod. That will probably change your point of impact, however, because of course you're putting pressure on that barrel. It's relatively tight. I was pretty surprised by that. Like this part here is the spring is tight, and this doesn't wiggle around. Like on my wife's SKS, I took the bayonet off because it was so wiggly. It was just flopping around all over the place, and I can't imagine that's good for accuracy purposes. Now the wood on this, it's some kind of hardwood. I don't know what species it is. Maybe maybe somebody like Rifle Chair could help decipher that for me. But it's some kind of Asian wood, more than likely, and it's a little soft. You could see here, right here, there's some damage. And there's the telltale damage right there. That curved piece, that's obviously damage from its shipping mate. And it's definitely the bolt handle from the next rifle in the crate that impacted here and put that dent in there. Probably this too. The jumble around that get moved around and got damaged. There's another one there where the rifles have been banging together and putting dents into the wood. Scrapes and that sort of stuff. So the stock, I wouldn't say it's all that particularly durable. If you put this through hard use, you're going to get dings and dents quite easily on it. So that's an unfortunate piece for this rifle. The stock is going to get damaged pretty easily. It's got a couple of neat features. Like, I do kind of like having the sling on the side. Between this sling in the back and the sling loop in the front, you can carry this if you're a right-handed person. If you've got a sling on it, across your chest, and it's in a good position that way. I find that with the Russian SKSs, where they've got their sling loop down here, you can't. It's difficult to carry it across your chest, like in that kind of ready position, because you get some twisting here, and it's always trying to flip over on you all the time. That's a pain in the butt. But on the Chinese ones, they've got this doodad here, and that's actually kind of nice. It does kind of get in your face. Luckily, it's not a heavy recoiling rifle, because your face is pretty much right here on the stock. So depending on if you're lying prone or what have you, this could actually run against your face. But since it's not a heavy recoiling rifle, it's not that big of a deal. So there you have it, folks. Some neat little things like the Chinese lettering on the side. It's got, reinforcements with pins. So, I mean, it's a pretty faithful reproduction of the Soviet SKS. And was more than likely built on the same machinery. Because the Chinese actually ended up buying a bunch of machinery, like the actual production machinery from the Soviets way back in the 60s, to build their own rifles. So there you have it. Chinese SKS. This cost me, I think it was like in the $225 range, which is a bargain. It really is. The SKS rifle, for what it is, it's like, I think I've mentioned this in videos past, but it's like the Canadian M1 carbine in a lot of ways. The ammo is very cheap. It's plentiful. You can get your hands on it. It's relatively accurate for what it is. I mean, with this very short... the sights are actually not so bad for a military rifle. Here we go. We got your elevations all the way from 100 meters all the way to 1,000. Yeah, 1,000 meters. But the rear sight, it's nice and flat. There's no weirdness going on, like rounded semi-buckhorn sights, which are pretty much useless. These are nice and flat. They're easy to see through. That front sight there, hopefully you can see it, is actually not so bad. It's a little wide for my taste. I like to take those out and actually remove some material from them to make them a little skinnier. Like they're a bit wider than an 8-inch target at 100 meters. So that makes it a little difficult to actually aim at what you're aiming at. But the sights are relatively decent for a military rifle, but they are, it's close together. It's got a 20-inch barrel, so it could be worse, but it could be a lot better. I mean, if there was a sight on the receiver, that would really help a lot. But it doesn't. Overall, the fit and function, the fit of it is really good. The stock is actually nice and tight. There isn't a lot of wiggle room. There is a bit. I don't know if you can hear this. So this could benefit from a bedding job. This tension here, between here and here, is pretty good. It doesn't seem to want to wiggle around. But it could probably benefit from a bedding job. Rifle Chair has an excellent video on that, on how to do it. So I might do that. I've got myself a jungle stock. It's a fiberglass jungle stock that was bedded for a different rifle at one time. I may actually throw that on this, and we'll see what happens to the accuracy. I've taken some video of the first group, which was actually pretty decent considering for what this rifle is, and I'm pretty happy with that. But I might give that a try, and then we'll see what the results are. So this is my first go at 100 meters. So this is straight out of the box. I haven't done a single thing to this. I took 3 rounds and changed it for elevation at 25 meters, and then shot off the rest of my box at 100 meters. And so there's 17 holes there, and 15 out of 17 landed within the meatball, so like the 8-inch target. So that's not so bad, really. So this is using, it's straight out of the box. I haven't done a single thing to it. I just decosmolined it and then put it back together again and shot it. And this is what we got. This is Czechoslovakian surplus ammunition, which shoots pretty well from what I've experienced out of a few different rifles. So I'm fairly happy with this. Really, horizontally, we're looking at about 4 inches or so. I need to bring the sights over a little bit to the left. And we've got a little bit of vertical stringing. But if you ignore those two on the outside, which are probably me goofing up or the extreme, the extreme edges of the group, really, I mean, that's pretty damn good for what you get. So yeah, if you see one of these and you're in the market for a cheap shooting rifle that's nice and fun and light and short, easy to carry around, with a cartridge that's actually semi-decent. I mean, it's not exactly a bear cartridge, but for coyotes, or maybe even a wolf or two, if you get real close to it, if you have the opportunity, it's certainly powerful enough for that. It's the 7.62 by 39 is similar enough to a 30-30 with a lightweight bullet. I mean, obviously the 30-30 you can run 170 grain round nose bullets in it, and that's a much more potent cartridge for deer and other game species. But it's competitive with the 30-30 with a lighter bullet, like a 125 grain bullet, which is what this is running, a 123 or 124 grain bullet. A full metal jacket, of course, but you can get civilian ammunition that have soft points in it. So, you got 5 rounds in the mag. You can load it very quickly with stripper clips. Here's a 10-round stripper clip. And yeah, I mean, that's a fair amount of firepower for fairly cheap. I mean, for $250, you can get one of these. And ammunition is very cheap for it as well, so you get lots of trigger time. So, thumbs up. If you ever get a chance to buy one, I strongly recommend you do. So that's it, folks. Have a good one, and I'll see you out on the range.